Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Today's topic is going to be one that's kind of fun for me to rant about. It is my worst roommate story as I'm getting ready here. Before I get into the story, I just want to mention sort of what I'm doing with my look today. I kind of want to do like kind of a gold vibe. I don't know why I'm feeling gold because usually gold doesn't look the best on my skin tone, but I want to try and like experiment with it anyways. So that's kind of what I'm going for with today's look. So we'll see how that turns out. Trying to use up some of my Project Pan shadows too, and I don't have a gold one in there yet, but I do have some like sort of more neutral colors that are usable. All right, so let me get started here. Yeah, so the crazy roommate story. Let me start at the beginning of the story. So how did I end up with this girl as a roommate, first of all? That's kind of a complicated one, but basically this was in college. I had many roommates throughout my time in college, just because I moved to a couple different apartments throughout the years. And anyway, so I'd been in this one apartment, and it was like my favorite apartment that I'd lived at so far. Like, it was the biggest, and I had a nice big room, which was nice, and it was like affordable and stuff. So I was in this one apartment, and I had it was a 4-bedroom apartment, so I had 3 roommates. And then at the end of that first year that I lived there, 2 of the 3 were moving out. So they left, and then we had to find, or like me and the other girl, we were friends. We were like, okay, we're gonna have to find 2 more people for the other 2 rooms. So my sister was just starting college, and she was coming to the same college that I was at. So I was like, oh, well, my sister could take one of the rooms. So my sister took one of the rooms, and that was problem solved. That was good. And then the other roommate that I was friends with, she was like, oh, well, I have this friend from class, and like she might be looking, so let's see if we can get her. So I was like, sure, sounds good. And so that's how she got involved. So this girl, I'm not gonna say her name, just because I don't think that's cool to do, especially because I'm basically spending this entire video just trashing her. So I'm gonna leave her as anonymous, but I guess we'll just, for the sake of the video, we'll just call her S. So that's how S came into the apartment. And when I first met her, like when she was looking at the apartment and stuff, like everything was cool, and I thought things were gonna be fine. And then she moved in, and it almost went bad like immediately with me and her, because I don't know why, she just didn't seem to like get along with me that well. And she was, I think she got like a little annoyed that I wasn't spending more time like hanging out with her and the other girls, because she was like single at the time, and my sister wasn't single, but like she had a long distance relationship going on, so she was like didn't have her boyfriend over a lot. And then I was in a relationship, so I had my boyfriend over like a few times a week or whatever. Like, he came over and spent the night and stuff, and then I would go over to his place. And I guess S just felt like I wasn't really, I don't know, I feel like she thought maybe I was not as interested in like being friends and like doing roomie stuff together, like as a group, because I was spending a lot of time with my boyfriend. Sorry, like so it was like already off to a rough start. And then my sister and her kind of got along, but so they would hang out together, and like my sister would tell me afterwards like that she was just shit talking me behind my back like the entire time they hung out, like, which is really stupid. It's like, what, do you think my sister's not gonna firstly take my side and secondly tell me everything you're saying? So it was like either she knew she was gonna tell me and just like didn't care or wanted her to tell me, or she is just that stupid, right? So my sister obviously told me everything she was saying, and she was just like, you know, yeah, talking shit about me behind my back, saying it was so annoying that I just hung out with my boyfriend all the time and blah blah blah. And she was like shit talking my boyfriend too, like he So my boyfriend was, so he was like an immigrant from, he was from Saudi Arabia, and he had moved to Canada, where I live, several years ago. He wasn't like an international student or anything. Like, he had moved here when he was like 10 or something like that, like a long time ago. And I don't know if this girl was just like low-key racist or something, but she hated him. And she would like make comments about like, oh, he smells like, she literally would say to my sister and stuff, like when I wasn't around, like, oh, like her boyfriend like smells like curry, and like would call him like a packy and stuff like that. And like, just nothing too crazy and bad, but like still pretty bad. Like, you know, pretty bad stuff, like pretty like racist type stuff. And anytime like anything happened, she would just blame it on him, and she just really did not like him, and he did nothing to her to deserve that. Like, she was just like after him for some reason. So I found that annoying. And then, so occasionally when he would spend the night, like he lived in an apartment like that was like quite a ways away, and neither of us had a car, so to walk from my apartment to his apartment was like a solid like 40-minute walk maybe. So in the winter, sometimes if we were hanging out, like he wouldn't want to walk all the way home to like go and have a shower or something. So I was like, oh, just shower here, like it's fine. Apparently that wasn't fine. Even though, like, what's the problem? But like, this roommate would, she would just like say like, it's not cool that your boyfriend showers here, and like it makes us uncomfortable. Like, this girl was not a prude either, okay? She was like, she was not a prude, let's just say. Like, she would go out partying, go to spend the night at dudes' houses or whatever, have dudes over and stuff. Like, she just never had dudes over that stayed longer than like a night, like long enough to shower, because she wasn't in a relationship. She was just like floating around having flings or whatever. So like, they would never like use our shower or anything. They weren't like that involved with her. So I don't know if that is the reason why she just like didn't like the fact that I had a boyfriend that like was consistently interested in coming around to see me, and she didn't have that, or what it was. But like, she was acting as if like it made her uncomfortable that he would shower at our house and stuff. And I'm like, give me a break. Like, that does not, you're just saying that, right? And all right, what color do I want to use now? Let's try this one. Yeah, so she started pulling that crap and saying like, oh, we don't, and she would always make it sound like it was a group decision, like we don't want him here and stuff. And like, I would talk to my sister privately and be like, do you actually like not want him around and stuff? And she's like, no, I don't give a shit. So she would like say stuff like that and try and like make it so that I couldn't have him over and stuff like that. And I was just not gonna like, I would just be like, yeah, okay, whatever. But like, I didn't take it that seriously. I was like, well, whatever. Like, you can keep showering here. Like, I don't care. It's not like he showered there every day. It's not like he lived with us. Like, it was like a once in a while thing. And she would like pull it like, oh, well, he's not paying for our water bill and stuff like that. And I'm like, yeah, because he has like one shower here every couple of months. Like, that's, what would that be? Like 2 cents? You know what I mean? Like, so that was getting annoying, but I was just like, well, whatever. She obviously just doesn't like my boyfriend. Like, fine. And then I remember there was this one incident. It was like the first Halloween or whatever that we lived together. And she decided, as many college girls do, that she was going to like slut it up for Halloween and be like a slutty referee or something. That was like her costume. Like, she fully, like, I'm not like trying to sound like I'm calling her a slut, but like, she fully said, I'm dressing as a slutty referee. Like, that was like her words. And I was like, okay, whatever. And like, she would like, she put this costume on. It was very, very like exposed. And she like would walk up to my boyfriend. Like, she walked up to my boyfriend and was like, what do you think? Is this too slutty? And stuff. And I was like, are you serious? Like, it was almost like she was doing that to try and purposely piss me off. Like, I wasn't bothered by it, because I knew my boyfriend, firstly, hated her, and secondly, like was not attracted to her. Like he fully said like she's disgusting. Like I'm not into that, you know. So for me it was just more funny than anything else, because I was like, oh wow, she's really trying to like make me jealous or something, or like get my boyfriend to like stare at her tits or something, and she has no idea that he thinks she's disgusting. So that happened, and it was just like the disrespect of that. Like, who does that? Who does that to somebody else's boyfriend? Like, that's weird. So whatever, that happened, and then this is still the very early days of living together. Like I said, it was like around Halloween, so really early in the semester. But things like started getting worse and worse and worse, and she started like full-blown stealing my stuff. Like she would eat my food, and like we all kind of did our own, we didn't share food, and that was not the arrangement. Like we all bought our own groceries, and it was just, we didn't like label everything, but like you just kind of knew like what stuff you bought for yourself and what stuff you didn't buy, you know? And so she would just like, I would just notice my food like disappearing, and I'm like, who's eating my food? And I like straight up asked my sister if she had eaten any of my food, and she was like, no. And I knew that the other girl wasn't the culprit because I'd already lived with her for like a year prior, and this had never happened when we lived together the first year. Like, so why would she all of a sudden start eating my food, right? So it was obvious that it was S. And so I like fully called her out on it. Well, I wrote like a note that basically stuck it on the fridge that said like, if you didn't buy this food, like it's not yours to just eat. Like you buy your own food, or at least ask me first. And she saw the note and she was like, who wrote this note? And I was like, I did. Like I didn't try and like play it off like it wasn't me or something. Like I fully owned up and said like, I wrote it because you've been eating my food, and like I can't afford to like feed me and you, okay? Like, so that was the start of like when things really got confrontational. And so she was like, she denied it. She was like, no, that wasn't me, and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, yeah, okay. Like, I've lived with my sister my entire life growing up. I know she would have just told me if she'd eaten something, and like, she would have just been like, yeah, dude, I ate it. And I know it wasn't the other girl because I'd already lived with her for a year too. So you're the only difference in this living situation that I'm not accustomed to. And all of a sudden this starts happening and you're going to say it's not you? Like, give me a break. So then at that point, she, I guess, took it up a notch and was like, in her mind was like, kind of like trying to mess with me at that point. So she started taking other things. Like she took like, one day I noticed like one of my pillows from my bed, like not the one I sleep on, but I had like some decorative pillows and stuff, just disappeared. And I'm like, what? Like, where's my pillow? And so it was just a pillow, so I didn't like think much of it. I just like kind of was like, whatever, like who cares? But then like other more expensive things started going missing. Like she would, like all of a sudden my iPod was gone. And this was years ago when iPods were like still a thing, like, and not everyone just like had an iPhone for their music and stuff. Like, so I had like an iPod, and yeah, it just disappeared. And so when that happened, I was like, okay, that's enough. Like I'm going into her room, and we kind of like had like an unspoken rule. You don't go into somebody else's room, obviously. There were locks on the doors, so you could lock your room as well. And I started to do that when things started going missing, but like I knew it was her. So when she was out one day, I was like, fuck this, I'm going into her room because I know I'm gonna find my stuff in there. Found my iPod, it was in there, and it was broken. So I'm like, cool, she broke my iPod, that's awesome. And I also found my pillow in there, and I also found out that she had broken some of my dishes and like just blamed it on other people. And like, so basically the snooping around in her room thing was really eye-opening. I mean, not really, because I already knew it was her, but yeah. So then when she got home, I was like, stop stealing my stuff, like straight up stop stealing my stuff. And she was like, I'm not, like, what are you talking about and stuff. And I was like, I found my shit in your room, like I found it. And she was like, why are you going in my room? And like it turned into this huge thing, and I was like, look, I wouldn't have to if you didn't like steal my stuff. Like, so at this point, it's like an all-out war, basically. Like, we hate each other. It's very obvious, and we're just forced to live in the same house, but thank God we have different rooms. And I had to move all of my stuff into, like, I had to move, like, basically all my dry food that didn't need to be in the fridge into my room so she wouldn't eat it. I had to move all my dishes into my room so she wouldn't break them. Like, everything was, like, basically in my room at that point, which was very annoying. Like, I had a decent-sized room, but not enough of a room to have all the kitchen stuff in it. So that was annoying. And then things got even worse from there, if you can believe that. So she would, like, just randomly vandalize my stuff. Like, I had a couple of, this was like a student apartment, so we didn't have anything like super expensive or anything, but like a couple of the tables in the living room were just like my IKEA like side tables or whatever. And like one day I saw that she had just chewed gum and stuck it on the bottom of my table, or like, and she would use my, in the bathroom, she would use like all my pads and tampons and like period products and stuff just because she was too cheap and lazy to go and buy her own. And I know that that was her. Again, like, it was like I'd already lived with the other two. They never had a habit of doing this. And all of a sudden it's like in 1 month I have like an entire box of tampons is gone. And I'm like, well, that obviously wasn't just me. So who's doing this? Like, surprise, surprise. So yeah, things were getting worse and worse and worse. She would just like be super passive aggressive. Like, one time I was like doing dishes in our, we didn't have a dishwasher or anything, so I was like hand washing the dishes, and she went out to take the garbage out for the week, and like she came back in and she was like, thanks for helping with the garbage. And I'm like, oh, I'm sorry. Like, do you not notice that I'm doing the dishes? It's not like I'm sitting here on my ass. Like, just stuff like that. Like, she would just make comments like that all the time. And also, she was like really gross, you guys. Like, this happened more than once, and I love that I get to tell this story because it's so hilariously disgusting. But she would, whenever she had a shower, so we had one bathroom that we shared with all 4 roommates or whatever. And this happened more than once, and it happened once my boyfriend was the one who discovered it, which was super embarrassing because I had to be like, sorry, that's my disgusting roommate. But she would go into, like, have a shower and, like, take a dump and then not flush it. Because, like, you know how sometimes when you flush the toilet and the shower's going, like, the water pressure or, like, the temperature of the water, like, gets all messed up. So I feel like that's why she did it. I'm just, like, assuming, because I don't know why you wouldn't flush. But, like, and it was always, like, it was never just, like, pee. Like, she would fully take a dump and not flush, and then have a shower, and then just not flush, and just leave it there. Like, I would walk in there, it happened like at least like three separate times where I went in there to use the washroom, and guess who left like their disgusting, well, you know, I'm not going to go into detail because I think you get the picture, but it was just like so gross, and I was just like, oh my god, like, again, this has never happened with the other roommate, and it had never happened when I lived at home with my sister. I know that wouldn't be her. And, like, yeah, literally one time my boyfriend went in there and then came back into my room, and he was like, ew, like, it was so gross. So, yeah, so then as the year progressed, like, this is getting closer to the end of the year now, and thank God, because she's, like, finally about to leave. And we had some, like I said, some crappy, like, IKEA type furniture in the living room, and the couches that we had belonged to the other roommate, not S, but the other roommate. And she was just planning to move, like, she was graduating, and so she was planning to move back home with her parents, and she didn't need the couches anymore because she was moving home. So she was like, hey, like, I don't need the couches anymore. Do you want me to just leave them here because you guys are staying another year? Because my sister and I, we had already signed a lease for the next year of the apartment. And I was like, well, yeah, I mean, if you don't need them, that would be great, because, like, we don't really want to go and buy furniture or whatever, and the couches are already here, and yeah, if you don't need them, that'd be awesome. And she was like, okay, yeah, I'll leave them for you guys. And then the day before, like, or the day of when her and S were moving out, well, she had actually left earlier, and then S was moving out. And my sister and I, like, I think we went grocery shopping or something when S was moving out, because we didn't really want to, like, be around her family or whoever was helping her move. So we're like, let's, like, get out of here, because it's going to be really awkward if, like, her family is coming in, because I'm sure she's told them about us, and, like, it's just going to be awkward. So we went out, and then when we came home, guess what wasn't there? Like, all the couches, they were gone. She just took them. And she was also moving back home, just FYI. She told us she was moving back home with her parents. Like, so she literally only took them so she could just so that we couldn't have them. Like, she just simply took them just to dig that, like, last nail in, you know what I mean? Like, she was just wanted to, like, be mean. So we were like, cool, thanks, bitch. Like, it was horrible. And going back a little bit, like, just a couple other honorable mentions to the story of things that she did over the course of the year. One time my sister and I invited one of our friends over, and we were gonna watch, like, we were gonna do like a movie marathon kind of a thing. And like, in our apartment, we each had our own bedrooms, and then there was like a shared living room and kitchen, right? So when we had our friend over, we decided, like, to watch a movie or whatever, and we did that obviously in the living room where the TV was and stuff. So we come over, we put the movie on, whatever, and S is sitting there, like, I guess studying or something, and she was like, can you guys not be so loud and, like, put the TV on when I'm trying to study? And it was like, okay, so go to the library, go into your room. Like, this is a communal area. You don't get to decide that you're studying here and nobody else can use the room. Like, you know what I mean? And yeah, and then I remember also she threw, like, a party one night, and, like, this was, like, the night before she moved out, and, like, just completely trashed the place. Like, there was garbage everywhere, empty liquor bottles, empty Solo cups, like, food garbage. She went, and it wasn't just like a party that she didn't clean up. She went out of her way to trash the place. She went out and bought streamers and just had streamers all over the living room, like, going in and out of the light fixtures and, like, on the walls, and just everything was just everywhere, like, everywhere. She'd taken, like, pictures off the walls that we had hung up, like, as decor. Like, just, she completely trashed it, and then, of course, moved out the next day and just left it for us. Like, took the couches but left the mess, you know what I mean? So that happened as well. At one point, she had a complete meltdown. I forget even what prompted it, but we were in an altercation over something and fighting or something, and basically I was telling her to F off and leave me alone, because she wasn't doing that at this point for some reason. And she locked herself in the bathroom, and I was like, well, fine, you can go sulk in the bathroom for all I care. And she was screaming through the door of the bathroom, screaming at me, saying that my family doesn't love me, and that, like, I should just kill myself, and, like, what is my purpose, and, like, just saying, like, all my friends, like I don't have any real friends and stuff. And she, at the same time, she said, literally in the same sentence, which was hilarious, she said, all you ever do is hang out with your boyfriend. And then literally in the next breath, she said, you're such a effing slut. And I'm like, so I'm a slut while only hanging out with my boyfriend? That makes a lot of sense. Like, so she was clearly just throwing out whatever came into her mind that she thought was going to hurt my feelings. And, like, she doesn't even know my family, first of all. So for her to make any kind of comments about how my family feels is hilariously dumb. So yeah, she was just a nightmare. She was a full nightmare to live with. And honestly, it sounds like, as much as this story, like, seems to showcase how freaking immature she was, which she was actually the oldest one in the apartment. Like, my sister was a freshman in college, so she was, like, at the time, I think she was 18 or 19 maybe. I'm 3 years older than her, so I was, like, 21, 22. The other roommate or whatever was my same age. And then this girl was, like, at the time, she was, like, 25 or something. And it's like, dude, like, why are you acting like a teenage girl? Like, grow up. And, like, this was so many years ago too, so I'm sure by now, like, she's at least 30 now, 30 or 31, and I don't obviously keep in touch with her, so I have no idea what she's doing these days, nor do I give a crap. But as far as I know, like, I have not seen anything pop up. And you know how sometimes on social media, like, even if you're not, like, friends with somebody, if you have a mutual friend, sometimes you see them come up in your photos or whatever because they were at, like, so-and-so's wedding that you're friends with or whatever. And I have not seen anything coming up on my social media to indicate that she's done anything with her life. I have no idea what she's doing now. Maybe she has like an amazing job and really got her shit together. Like, I don't know, but I highly, highly doubt it. And yeah, so she was just like such an awful person. Worst roommate ever. Ugh, I wish I still remembered all the other things that she did, because this is like just the tip of the iceberg. Like, I'm not even kidding. Like, she did so much other stuff that I'm not remembering because it was so many years ago that it was like, at one point, like, I fully couldn't even be at home anymore because I wanted to like physically attack her. Like, I was like restraining myself. Like, I had to, for the last like 2 months of school, I went and essentially moved in with my boyfriend, like, not officially and not because we wanted to. Like, it's not like our relationship was at that point or anything really, but just because I could not handle going home to my apartment and being in the same space as her. Like, she would like call her friends on her cell phone and like walk through the living room and kitchen, like where the rest of us were, and just really loudly be like, yeah, my roommate's such a fucking bitch and blah blah blah, and, you know, and like just be like passive aggressively mean all the time, just little things like that all the time. And she would like, she came from like a really well off family that had a lot of money, and she would rub that in our faces all the time. My sister and I, we aren't like poor, obviously. I mean, we were going to university, so we were able to like afford to go and stuff, like, but we weren't like rich, and we weren't getting like a ton of money from my parents to just like blow on stuff. So like, she would rub that in our face. Like, she would always be like wanting to do these elaborate things, and when we said we couldn't afford it, she would be like, oh, like, okay. She accused me of using her for rides because this is what happened. Before we hated each other, like at the very beginning of the year, like September or something, when we were just kind of like so-so about each other, there was one time I went to the mall. I took the bus to the mall or whatever, and I lost my bus pass at the mall. So I couldn't get home. And so I think I called her at that point and said, like, because she had a car, and I was like, hey dude, like, I lost my bus pass at the mall and I'm stranded at the mall. Like, do you think you could pick me up? So there was one single time I asked her for a ride, and it was only because I was desperate, because I lost my bus pass and I didn't have any cash, so I couldn't just pay for the bus like for a regular trip or whatever. I lost my bus pass because I lost my wallet. I didn't even have like my debit card, so I couldn't even go to an ATM to get some money for the bus. Like, I literally had no other option. Like, my only other option would be to like walk home, and it was going to be like an hour walk or something like that. So there was one time I asked her for a ride, and then she, I guess, held a grudge about that one time, and like by the end of the year, that was one of the things she like mentioned when I was like, what is your problem? And she was like, you always just use me for like for car rides and stuff just because you don't have a car and stuff. And I'm like, that was literally one time. That was literally one time, and it was because I was desperate. It wasn't just because I was being lazy or didn't want to wait for the bus or whatever. Like, I worked part-time at the mall. I would take the bus every time I had a shift. Like, I never once asked you for a ride. So so basically, yeah, there's many more stories. I wish I could remember them all. I really do. Like, I'm glad I don't, because it's not like a good memory. But yeah, just all kinds of stuff like that. So that is my worst roommate ever story. I know I kind of just ranted and sort of stopped doing my makeup midway. So it's only like half completed, but I'm going to cut this video off here because that's basically the end of the story. But if you guys have any good roommate stories too, comment them down below, or just like give me the highlights or whatever, because I love hearing funny roommate stories. Because God, living with people is hard enough when you like the person, but when you absolutely can't stand the person, it's a literal nightmare. So comment below and we can like reminisce on terrible life experiences together. Okay guys, thanks for watching. I'm gonna finish up this makeup look, and then I'm gonna do another video kind of going over some new additions to my makeup collection, which will probably be up the day after this one, because I'm scheduling my posts to be like a once a day thing. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this video today, and I will see you guys in the next one. Okay, bye.